Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new German Tier 8 premium heavy tank, the Asterion M48A2 Raumpanzer. Now this is the Dread Dozer or the M48A2 Raumpanzer, but they've turned it into a heavy tank. It has the same awakened abilities as the Dread Dozer because, like I've said in the Arachnid video, they've said that they probably won't get the Hot Wheels license again. And unless people really want the Hot Wheels license, and they didn't want to restrict people's abilities to get the awakened abilities of both the Dread Dozer and the Thankyou. So yeah, they've made it so that these two tanks have it. So obviously this is just an M48A2 Raumpanzer, but they've created it as a heavy tank. They've changed a load of the stats, so they've improved the armor in certain places. They've changed track traverse, the mobility, and changed the gun. But for all intents and purposes, in terms of the model, it is basically a reskin of the Raumpanzer. But like I say, it is its own tank in its own right in the way that it plays, because a lot of the things have changed the way it is. In terms of the skin, it's fairly similar to the Chimera, actually, the way it looks with this, metal bust on the front with it. I don't think it's the worst looking tank in the universe. It's certainly not as bad looking as the Dread Dozer in its really garish paint scheme. Or it's definitely not as horrific as the Arachnid with those wiggly bloody legs. Is it, for an awakened monster tank, it doesn't look too bad. Is what it is, right? I don't mind this one too much. So let's have a look at the stats of the Asterion. So on the Asterion, we have a 650 horsepower engine with a 35 km/h top speed and 14 reverse speed. You have an 11.07 horsepower per ton. Now, this tank feels so incredibly slow. Its mobility is really poor. It is one of the big drawbacks of the tank. But the armor is great. So that's the trade-offs, right? So 35 km/h top speed with that horsepower per ton is just ew. It really doesn't feel very fast at all. And it just feels so slow and cumbersome in games where the game just moves a little bit too quickly. Adding to this, obviously you've got 1500 hit points, which is not too bad for a tier 8 heavy. It's about there. Adding to this 24 degrees a second hull traverse, which is really slow. It feels really slow. And yeah, adding to that of the mobility, the whole thing just feels sluggish and really slow as mobility-wise. It just doesn't feel that great with its mobility. In terms of terrain resistances, these aren't what's holding it back. These terrain resistances are actually pretty damn decent, which means you don't really have to take off-road driving, which is, okay. You just want to try and... You might have to accept that this tank is slow, to be honest, because it does have other drawbacks as well that you need to try and negate. So it's a heavy tank, so you don't care about the camo rating. So yeah, it's got 382 meters steel concealment, which is really poor, but it is a heavy tank, so you don't really care. 380 meters view range is not too bad. Again, that sits on the edge of pretty average for a tier 8 tank. It's not too bad, not too good. You can make the most of it with optics and get it up to a pretty decent range, which is good. So you've got a 22 degrees a second turret traverse as well, which is slower than the tracks once again. And it just adds to the fact that this tank feels so incredibly slow. It makes the whole tank feel really cumbersome, right? That's the way it feels. It feels just cumbersome to use. And yeah, all of that, this and all of that added together makes the whole tank feel really cumbersome and slow and a bit painful at times. So in terms of its gun, it's got a 13-second reload, which is pretty slow. It's got 360 alpha for this 13-second reload. Like I say, it's 1600 DPM. It feels pretty slow as a reload, although having 360 alpha on this tank is pretty nice. It's got the 4.62 rate of fire. Like I say, it's got 0.4 accuracy, which you really want to make better with vert stabs. You really want to do that and have all the gun perks. And a 2.7 aim time as well, which again, you want to make better. You want to try and make better with, just having Born Leader and stuff like that, because that does feel quite slow, and, that gun handling isn't the best, and it does troll you. It's trolled me quite a few times, and it's really annoying in that way. You've got AP, APCR, and HE, which has an 810 meters a second shell velocity on the AP with 1100 shell velocity on the APCR, which is such a step up. When you switch to the premium APCR, you do feel the massive step up in velocity, and this is one of those tanks that you can see people just firing full premium because of the shell velocity, in the fact that it feels really nice and it feels so much better at hitting targets generally. In terms of penetration, you've got 218 pen on that AP round and 282 penetration on the APCR. That is fantastic for tier 8. So for a standard pen on a tier 8 heavy, 218, that's pretty decent. That's pretty good, to be honest. You'll pen a lot of tanks you're going to face with that, and then if you really can't, or you're really struggling to pen them with 218 pen, just load the premium. 282 pen is going to be great, and you're going to go through everything. And yeah, you're going to have a good time with that. So, yeah, on the whole, this tank feels slow and cumbersome. The gun handling lets you down a decent bit, but you can, obviously do enough with the crew skills and the equipment to negate it to make it feel a little bit nicer. But the one thing that this tank does have is armour. So, what's the best way of describing this tank with its armour? It's like a super Pershing. Yeah, and, I'm going to go with a super Pershing because of the blade, right? So the blade on the front of this, which is a big difference to the Raumpanzer, or the Dread Dozer, is 80mm of spaced armour. So if you were to look at the Dread Dozer, that is one big difference, because the Dread Dozer has 30mm of spaced armour on that blade. So that is a massive difference between the medium tank to the heavy tank, is that spaced armour is huge. And it really helps to block a hell of a lot of shots when you're top tier, like loads of shots. In terms of the armour behind it, it's 110, 101. If people do hit that upper plate and they've got decent pen, they're just going to go straight through it, so you really have to be careful of that. If they hit the little spoiler thing, engine block, whatever it's called, that is 30mm of spaced armour in itself before you hit the armour behind it, which is 50, which is still not great. People do go through that a bit, and it's really annoying. And yeah, this is why I say, though, that the tank is very much like the Super Pershing, because this turret front is absolutely fantastic, right? This turret front blocks so much damage. You're going to see that in the replays as well. The armour profile of these turret front is absolutely fantastic. Blocks loads of damage. If you're on a ridge line, it's great. Because obviously you have 10 degrees of gun depression as well. I think I forgot to mention that. Oh no, you've got 9 degrees of gun depression, if you look down here, and 19 degrees of elevation, which is fantastic. But yeah, 9 degrees of gun depression is fantastic in itself anyway. But yeah, so in terms of the armour, the turret when it's hull down is great. But you do have 200mm of armour on your cupola. Okay, so the cupola is a fairly large and easy to hit weak spot. It is a little bit concealed though by the bull, so it makes it a little bit harder to try and feather out, which is good, but at the same time, it's still fairly easy to hit, and it is a tumour on top, which people will aim for. And like I say, adding to that, if people aim above the blade and hit you on this upper plate, and they've got 220, 230, probably 230 to 240 pen, they will go through your upper plate quite easily as well. So the reason I say it's like a super Pershing is that if you sit in front of people that have no idea what they're doing, this armour is utterly incredible, and it bounces so much. But if you play against someone who knows what they're doing, they're just going to take advantage of your weak spots a hell of a lot, and then your armour becomes just frustrating nothingness, right? So that is something to be very, very careful of, and that's why I say it's like the Super Pershing, because the Super Pershing is the same. If it plays against people that don't know what they're doing, fantastic. The armour's great, and you have no problems. You play against someone who knows what they're doing, the armour just instantly becomes rubbish, and it's not that fun, really, let's be honest. And again, like I say, the Asterion loses mobility to gain that armour, and its mobility is pretty tragic at times. So in terms of equipment on the Asterion, I run rammer, vert stabs, and optics, like I always would, because I want to make my view range better and just be able to spot for myself, generally, because I hate being outspotted. It's one of my pet hates. If I can make myself get spotting, and it's especially helpful, again, for getting good spotting damage and getting good assistance, you can run the optics. Vert stabs again to make the gun as good as possible and get your DPM 10% better is always great, right? Let's put the consumables on, and then we'll go have a quick look at what happened. Well, actually, we need to put the commander in. That's a good point. I nearly forgot there. I put the commander in the Dread Dozer for ease, so let's go put it in the Asterion. So we have the Asterion here with the crew. which I've just clicked off of, which is really clumsy of me. Let's go to the commander. Here we are. So the skills, we have Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Rapid Aim, Steady Aim, Snapshot, and Run and Gun. All these gun perks make this gun as good as it possibly can, because it is derpy and it can be frustrating. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse just better, because it's so slow, and you want to make the turret traverse better with that 10% increase on Rapid Aim. Trust me, you just want to do it. It's definitely needed. I mean, you could make the hull traverse better and get rid of Trap Mechanic and put clutch braking on if you wanted to, but it is a heavy tank, so you want to be brawling with it, so having the ability to get your tracks back on quicker is always something that I think you might want in a heavy tank, right? So let's have a quick look at the stats of the tank with all the stuff on it. So as you see here, we've got the turret traverse up to 26.76, which is now faster than the hull traverse. Barely, but enough that you do feel that difference as opposed to what it was. Like I say, the terrain resistance is a little bit better with Born Leader. Again, your accuracy during rotation with the vert stabs and Born Leader are down to 0.83, so it's not too bad. You've got 2.26 accuracy, which is great with vert stabs and all the gun accuracy perks. It still does light to dirt, but I put that down to the 810 velocity at times. But yeah, do beware, the gun still does like a little bit of a derpy shot. And a 2.49 second aim time, which you've got down with Born Leader and stuff like that. Again, which it makes it a little bit nicer than the 2.7 it was. And on your view range, you've got 486 meters view range, which is fantabby-dozy. You'll be getting quite a bit of assistance with that, which is nice. And your reload, you've got down to 9.48 second reload. But if you were to put on vents, you probably get that down a little bit lower. And if you boost your food during the match, that'll probably get down closer to 9 seconds as well. So on the whole, the Asterion is a tank that's fairly similar to the Super Pershing in the way, well, in its downfalls, right? It trades the mobility for armour, like spaced armour and stuff, and if you're facing someone that doesn't know what they're doing, the armour is just great. It just laughs at people. But if you face someone that knows what they're doing, the armour gets absolutely shredded. But naturally, with the cupola being only 200mm, well, being 200mm thick, you have to have, if you're facing tier 6s and 7s, not all of them have that sort of pen, and they will struggle with you frontally quite badly. But they do hit that engine thing in the front, they can also just go through that as well, which can be pain. But on the whole, it's an okay tank. It's one of them tanks where it's like, it can be extremely frustrating, and I don't know. I think it's probably a pass, to be honest. If you were to think and look at it, it's probably one that you go, nah, I'm alright. But I'll leave that down to you. It's down to personal preference. I'm just not a big fan of the mobility and the fact that the armour can be like god tier, and then it's really just not god tier at all, right? Is what it is. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can decide, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It looks great. Or you can go, yeah, no, I don't like the looks of the mobility or the good handling and stuff like that. I'm going to make a hard pass on that. So as always, everybody, I will send you over to the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Asterion M48A2 Raumpanzer. And yeah, this first game is probably the more average game I've had, where, and we're bottom tier in this one, where you just sort of get a nice little bit of damage off, but then the game just runs away and you don't get a chance to do anything else. And you're like, oh, because this tank is just a slow lumbering beast, and there is quite a lot of games where they end in like 4.5 minutes and you sit there going, well, I can't do anything anymore because the game's over. Damn it, right? It is more a breakthrough tank where, like I say, if you end up pushing against a load of tanks that don't really know where to pen you, they can't really pen you, and you can have a really great time because you'll bounce a lot and then you'll be able to dish out a fair bit of damage because, the 360 alpha is nice, the reload's okay-ish, the gun handling's a bit troll, but, you can get over it, and, yeah, the premium round's actually quite nice, to be honest. The velocity is nice on it. But on the whole, I find myself with this tank just feeling a bit... Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, and it's a bit hit and miss. It's not like one of those where you go, oh, I don't want to play this tank, it's rubbish, right? Because it's not. It can be fun, but at the same time, I'm also sitting there sometimes going, oh, just a little bit frustrated with it, because it's like, at one moment I'm like, yeah, this is great, and then at other times it's just like, no, the armour really is trash. I feel like this tank is really good armor-wise against tanks that have, like, you know, 230 pen or less. And that's, you know, when you are top tier, essentially, the armor's great. But when you're getting against tier 9s and 10s that have 260 pen, that's where it starts to become a bit of a problem. That's where it starts to feel a little bit like, oh, it's not that good. And you start to struggle more because people start going straight through the ramp on the front, the blade on the front. They just start. If they've got 260, 270 pen, they just seem to go straight through it, straight through your upper plate and pen you every time, and it's really irritating. But like I say, if you're against like people with 230 or less, if just like a super Pershing, if they don't know where to pen you, they really do struggle. So it can be quite nice in that way. So yeah, we are on El Haluf, and we've taken this position here. Artillery's had two attempts at us and done a little bit of damage to us, which is unfortunate. We're down to like 900 less hit points than we want, essentially. And we're just using this position because this position is good for staying hull down. But the problem is, obviously, artillery can just slap us here, and that just makes it awkward at times. But I don't really want to stay here because while those 257 heavy and the Moustion have moved forward, artillery is just going to keep raining hell upon me there, and I don't want to be there for that. So you know what? We're going to move forward into this corner. We're going to back up this Type 5 heavy, I think it is. Yeah, Type 5 heavy against this Moustion. It's like, hello, Mr. Moustion. We pen him in the side, and he damages us. And it's like, he only took off about 200 hit points. What? He must have been firing HE. Okay then, Mr. Moustion. We'll just roll with it. We'll just roll with it. With the premium, we're not going to pen the Moustion without the 282 premium APCR, because with 218 standard pen, we're just not going through that guy. So we just start popping some shots at him, straight through his cupola with the APCR. And I say, because he is firing HE, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a bit more aggressive against him, because he can't kill me in one shot, unless obviously he just switches back to AP. But I feel like he's the kind of guy that fires HE all the time. And unfortunately, we ended up missing that shot earlier on the T-7 Heavy. As he came across, it ended up derping. But this time, we're like, okay, we're going to go. We get a shot into the side of the Moustion, and it's like, Mr. Type 5 Heavy, please help. Please help me. Please. And thankfully, the Type 5 Heavy managed to shut down the Moustion. We just had to move that on. Otherwise, we'd have been stuck there with the artillery raining death upon us. And, like I say, as you're watching the team listing on the top, they are dying and they are falling away very, very quickly. And it was like, I can't faff. I can't spend time faffing here. So, you know what, we're just going to have to take the risk and go around this Moustion. You know what I mean? At the minute, we've done 2.1k damage, 721 assisted, which is okay, but it's not great for a tier 8. But I have found myself, like I say, in quite a few games having a game like this, where it's like, I just need, like, probably 4 more shots, 3 more shots, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm pretty happy with this, you know? And there's got 4 tanks left, and I'm just there like, come on, tank, drive! Come on, we can get there, you know? And just watching all their hit points drain away and being like, no, I just wanted to shoot someone. Because it is slow. It is a very slow tank. And as you can see, I mean, we're trundling along, what, 33, 34? Which the max speed is 35, so I mean it's not too bad really. And you can just see with the turret traverse, and you've seen it in this game so far, and the track traverse, it's just slow. It makes the whole thing just feel cumbersome, and yeah, it can be just a little bit annoying. But your trade-off is your armor, but sometimes it's not good to trade off everything about the tank just for armor, especially when the armor struggles to work against like tier 10s and stuff, and that's the pain. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we managed to get a shot into that 268 version 5 as he overpeaked there, and we're just watching it going, please do, just do it once more. Just give us the chance to get another shot in. But unfortunately, he gets set on fire by the Tusk, and he gets finished off. And we finished the game with 2.5k damage, 721 assistance, and the victory. We actually came top on the team. Second class, 1408 base XP with 1 kill. Decent game for the Asterion. Well, we're bottom tier. We did some decent damage to some tier 9s and 10s. But that was the more average game. It's, when we're like tier 9s and 10s, because it's like the games fall away. We're just a little bit too slow to get there to get all the damage we want. And then it ends up being a bit like, ah, you know. Now we're on to the second game. And this time we are top tier, which has actually been most of my games in this tank. Because weirdly, I've just kept having sort of full tier matchmaking, if you get my drift. Where it's like pretty much all tier 8 and then one tier 7. And that's what's kept happening. It's same with tier 9, actually. I've kept having like full tier 9 games, but then like no leeway. And that's what my matchmaker's been like in this tank so far. I think I've played like bottom tier 4 times, and every time I've done about 2 to 2.5k damage. The armour hasn't really held up that much, and yeah, we drive around for about 10 minutes. That's what it felt like anyway. But in the second game, we are top tier, which is exactly what this Asterion wants, because this is where the armour is the most likely to work. And when we are top tier, like I say, there is a hell of a lot of tanks that are going to struggle to pen us, which is nice. And this is where our 360 alpha really starts to mean something a little bit, because, you know, we're not facing tier 9s and 10s that have mostly an average of like 400 alpha. We're facing tanks that, you know, a lot of tanks are getting 240, 250, and then obviously you're facing the Russian sort of tanks that have got like, you know, 390, etc. But 360 does mean something, and obviously our 218 pen on our standard, we'll be able to go through pretty much everything we're going to face, really. And if we have to, if we're really that desperate, we can just load APCR and go through it. So we're coming to this position here at J2, which is kind of where I want to be, because from here I can kind of just show my blade and my turret front to the enemy team as they come down the one line, which should be the strongest part of my armour, and therefore we can hopefully bounce quite a bit. This Carnarvon's found himself in an awkward position. We've got shots at his engine deck, so we're just going to start slapping some shots on this guy while keeping ourselves tucked in as tight as we can to this rock on our right, or this hill, just so artillery doesn't get, as you can see, we've just got a slither of this guy's engine deck, and we're just getting the shots in. Now this Aguila's been really aggressive, and it's like, hello, Mr. Light Tank. Why? Okay, goodbye. We're high roll, finish off the Aguila, and now we're turning back our attention to the Carnarvon, but this 53 TP drives out in the open. It's like, okay, sir, let me just get a shot at you. We managed to get a nice shot in that tracks him, but he repairs, someone else shoots him, and we're just looking at like, I just want to shoot it, and I did the thing of pressing the trigger where it's like, god damn it, he's just got beyond my shot, but because I was like 1 second out from reloading, it just automatically fired. But we're just looking for a shot at the 53 TP old Carnarvon, but we're looking for a lower plate shot at the Diamondback, which with our 218 pen we're not really going to do. So we load the APCR because we will go through the Diamondback at this angle, but he just goes straight through our armour. Then the Black Prince pens us as well. And it's like, okay, people, sure. We get a nice shot into the upper plate of the Diamondback there. He shoots our turret front, which bounces, which is nice. I don't know really where that Diamondback penned us. I think he must have hit the upper plate, but he takes another shot as ricochets off our turret armour, because our turret armour is really good as long as it doesn't hit the cupola, and we shut down the Diamondback. Now we're looking for a shot at the T-34-100, which with 360 Alpha was more than a 50-50 chance to finish him off, and we do get to finish him off. Just looking at the back end of the Carnarvon there, can we see it? We do just have it, so we slap the shot into his back end and finish him off. And now the next tank on the list is the Black Prince. But actually we see the Scorpion G's over here, so we just turn the target on it. And we just move back a little bit, which rocks the gun up in the air and ends up missing the Scorpion. Bad moment of RNG and just bad driving there. And unfortunately, we don't actually get to finish off the Scorpion G, which is, yeah, unfortunate. Now we're going to drive up behind the Black Prince. It's like, hello, Mr. Black Prince, just let me pop a shot into your anus. Thank you very much. Goodbye. We shut down that guy, just looking at the shot of the medium tank, but he's dead. And now it's like, okay, they've got 5 tanks left, and they're not here. They're probably going to enter our base any second now, as you can see why I pinged defend the base. And yet, someone enters the cap circle, it's like, oh god, here we go. I'm just going to wait now, because it's like, in any second now, there's going to be 2 extra people drive straight into that cap circle, and we are done for, right? We're donezo. Happens quite a lot on Great Wall, but if you're in a tank that's quick enough, you can actually just get straight back and defend the cap anyway. And it's like, you know, not that bad. But then a TD gets spotted up at G4, 5, and it's like, okay, that's the Stirrer Mill. Okay, they've still got someone capping. Then as we're coming along, the T-54E2 gets spotted, and it's like, oh no, I cannot drive towards our cap now with him there. So we bounce one off our dozer, off our blade, sorry. Then he pens us through the upper plate, I think. Then he ricochets the other one. Let's say this armor seems to, sometimes it works, sometimes it really doesn't, just like a super Pershing. And he managed to pen us 1 out of 3. One hit the upper plate, the other 2 hit the blade, and he missed. The T-29 misses, and now he's pushing us. We've pushed our way into this rock on our side. We get a nice shot in his upper plate. We're just pulling back. And unfortunately, we just give him a little bit too much of our side armor, and he goes straight through it and shuts us down. I mean, this is what I mean about the Asterion, to be honest, is like that T-54A2 clip, and when the Diamondback shot us earlier on as well. Sometimes the armor is fine, and it works great, and then sometimes it just says no. And we do finish the game with the high caliber, 2nd class, 1661 base XP. We blocked like 2.6k damage as well, which is nice. And yeah, like I say, it's weird with the armor in the fact that it does work really, really well, and you can block a hell of a lot. And then sometimes it just doesn't. It just doesn't work, and you sit there going, "Oh, I wish that had blocked more," you know. But now we're on to the third and final game, and this is the best game I had in the tank. Ron Prokhorovka, which is possibly perfect for us. Obviously, there is 1 artillery, which is not great. It's never great to have artillery on Prokhorovka against you, especially when you're in a slow, lumbering beast like the Asterion. But it's really sort of perfect for us because we can get to the ridgeline in front of us, get hull down, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Hopefully they won't hit our cupola, and we can try and get a lot of assisted damage and some good damage out. As long as we don't get smashed by artillery and artillery doesn't start to love us, we should have a great time, really. So we're going to go to this position here at E4, which is, you know, the position I like to take a lot. And that's because it's really the perfect position. Because from here, you can spot the guys down the 6 line. And, hello, Mr. Artillery. Sir, what are you doing? Okay, sorry. If anyone wants to know what that M12 is doing, I think he's just sacrificing himself to all of us people, which is great. Thank you, Mr. M12, for making our lives easier. Anyway, yeah, this position, sidetracked. This position here is great because you get good shots down the 5-6 line. You can also spot the 5-6 line, but also you've got a great position to spot anything that's camping down the 2 line and get good shots at them. And you can get a lot of assistance from it, and you can also get good shots yourself down there anyway. This is where the slow turret traverse of the tank will let us down a little bit, though, because we're really having to keep turning the hull and the turret to try and get the gun back on target. If there's a target on the left, it takes a long time to get the turret back round to get a shot on the guys on the right. And this is where that turret traverse feels really slow. But you see, we are spotting these guys down this line, and we're also blocking a decent amount so far. The Death Chariot pops up on the left, and we're just being careful to not let him have a shot at us, because that thing slaps. We are going to struggle to pen that guy unless we get his lower plate, so we've just been or his cupola either, but they're awkward shots. We're just being careful not to get slapped by him. But now we'll try and get a shot into the Tiger Shark because he's ploughing along, but unfortunately we missed that shot. Then artillery gets lit up, and it's like, I could go for the artillery, but I'm just going to hope someone else shoot it, and we're going to try and keep putting shots at all these guys. Another target enters the fray. It's the standard Scorpion. We spot him as he shoots at us. And so far, we're up to 3k spotting with only 980 damage. We're doing a lot of spotting. We're at 3.1k, sorry. And we blocked 2.5k damage as well, like I say. This tank is really good when it is hull down. As long as people aren't getting clean shots at your cupola, and like you're seeing here, we're keeping moving up and down on the ridgeline, you'll be alright. So we get a nice shot into the side of the P43 there, because he's like one of the only ones spotted, and we can't really get a shot at the other guys on the left. And we're just keeping going. We're just keeping ourselves poked up above the ridgeline, because fortunately enough, our artillery shut down their artillery, so we don't have to worry about the piggy anymore, which is great. We get a nice shot into the side of the MXM454, 54, that's the tier 10, 45, as he pokes above the ridgeline. We actually end up getting the spotting on him as well. And we're still getting assisted on those guys down that line. We're up to 3.8k assistance so far, a bit 2k damage now with a shot into the general. And we're just going to stick here because it's working so well, pretty much. They've still got a lot alive, so it's like, well, come on guys, shoot at me. And it is one of those things, it's one of those benefits to having a tank that has turret armor in this position, because I can literally just go here and sit here and go, shoot at me, come on, get yourself spotted. And there we go. Fortunately enough, the Udares 03 gets spotted because he fires at someone, and we end up getting his whole health is assisted. 4.8k spotting now. And we've blocked 3.3k as well. And again, with this general trying to poke to get a shot, unfortunately we ricocheted off his turret, which that thing has no armor, so that's quite impressive. But I'm quite confident that he's not going to pen me, so it is what it is. We get a nice shot into the drive wheel there of the Jagdpanther and keep him in place. The Death Chariot's coming over, so it's like, leave me alone, Mr. Death Chariot. We turn our whole armor towards him to make sure he doesn't pen us. We try and get a shot then into the Jagdpanther's side, but unfortunately it hits his angled front and bounces. Is what it is. The general's now moving over, and while our team is moving down the 1-2, it's like, well, you know what? While they're distracted, let's get a shot into this general and go all the way over. So we get a nice shot into hit the back of his turret. Fortunately enough, the Death Chariot is not looking at us as well, so that's okay. And I'm just like, you know what? Okay, I'm actually going to look at the Death Chariot. I'm going to try and get a shot into his cupola. Poorly aimed, poorly snapped. Doesn't go anywhere near. Then the general gets spotted going up on top of the ridgeline. It's well, hello, sir. Let me just get rid of your gun out of the game then. So we shut down the general. We're up to 5k spotting with 2.8k assistance. 5k spotting with 2.8k damage, I should say. Now the T25/2 drives out in the open. It's like, well, let me just slap a shot into you. We shut down the T25/2. And now we've got the Death Chariot on our left here. We've got a light tank that is with our medium, or our heavy on TD, sorry. And it's like, okay, you know what? If they're there, I'm not sure there's much else where those guys are. Or if they are, they're going to be distracted with my teammates. So you know what? I'm going to attack this Death Chariot. Sorry, not Asterion. I'm in the Asterion. There the TD gets spotted. Now, there's the P43 turret over here. We're just looking to see if we can get a shot at him, but unfortunately he gets down below. And it's like, okay, you know what? Death Chariot slaps us. He's wiggling his tank, his turret there, wiggling his cupolas. This man knows what he's doing. We try and get a shot at it, but we only damage his gun. So we're like, you know what? This guy is going to struggle to pen us with 208 pen unless he hits our cupola. And even then, that's a 50-50 for him, unless he fires Prem. So we're going to get rid of this man. And unfortunately, we don't roll high enough to finish him off. And I'm just going to ignore the things shooting me in the side for now, just to get rid of this guy. So we shut him down. And as we shut him down, we swivel our armor back towards them. Unfortunately, the P43 turret just gets a shot at us as we move in, and now we make a mistake. We actually drop down on the ridgeline, which gives this awful Panther the chance to actually pen us, because it makes our armor so much worse, and with the rate of fire that thing has, he shuts us down. And if we'd just stayed on top of that ridgeline, we would have actually been alright. But we finished the game with 3 kills, 3.7k damage, 5.1k assistance, ace tanker, the Spartan medal, because we blocked like 5-point-something-k as well, 2.3k base XP with the ace tanker. Really nice game for the Asterion. Like I say, if you get it in a good position to use the armour effectively, it can be really solid. But for the most part, if people know what they're doing, they're just going to pick your armour apart, unfortunately. And it's really, really hit and miss in that way. Sometimes it's really fun, because you're like, ping, 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 and sometimes it's really not. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.